Satisfied customers are return customers. They're the people who want you back. And as wood flooring professionals, they're the best compliments you can receive. They're how you or your company builds a solid book of business. And really, in many cases, generating return business for everybody comes down to you, the professional installer or finisher. Over the next few minutes, we'll review the guidelines and procedures the NWFA recommends you follow for installing solid wood plank or strip flooring in mechanically fastened applications and for engineered flooring and glue-down applications. And remember, no job is finished until you are proud of the finished job. All successful wood flooring installations require proper planning and preparation. For this program, we've already completed the necessary pre-installation procedures. Specifically, it's your responsibility to make sure that the building is enclosed, check to see that the air conditioning and heating systems work, or make acceptable arrangements. Ensure all concrete, masonry, plaster, drywall, paint, and wall covering work is completed. Deliver the wood flooring only after these environmental considerations have been achieved. And acclimate the wood flooring according to the manufacturer's instructions and NWFA guidelines. In jobs above basements or crawl spaces, check to see that the basement or crawl space is dry. Measure to ensure a minimum of 18 inches between the ground and floor joists. Install a proper retarder over exposed earth or thin concrete, and ensure that proper venting is installed. Also keep in mind, the wood flooring and prepared subfloor must be moisture tested before installation. For strip flooring, the difference in moisture content between the subfloor and flooring must not exceed 4%. For plank flooring, it must not exceed 2%. Finally, you may only install solid wood flooring at or above grade level, with the surrounding soil sloped away from the structure. Engineered flooring may be installed at any level, once again with the surrounding soil sloped away from the structure. These are just the highlights of the NWFA's recommended preparation procedures for solid and engineered wood flooring. For more detailed information, see the NWFA guidelines and the manufacturer's instructions. In the first demonstration, we'll install unfinished 3/4 inch thick solid wood plank flooring over a plywood subfloor that has been moisture tested, flattened, and swept or vacuumed. Typically, you'll want to install the flooring perpendicular to the floor joist, starting with the longest, straightest available line. In a single room, as we'll be doing today, it's often parallel to the longest wall. When doing multiple rooms, the longest wall is typically a hallway or a central corridor. Before beginning your mechanically fastened installation, cover the wood subfloor with an acceptable moisture retarder. Use your stapler to weight one end as you roll out the material so you can position it as needed. Overlap the seams 2 to 4 inches. Check the NWFA installation guidelines for a list of acceptable moisture retarders. Next, take some careful measurements to establish your working line, the place you'll begin your installation. And because no room is perfectly square, you'll probably need to hide some excess board width. Let me show you what I mean. In this example, one side of the room measures 150 inches, while the other measures 151 inches. This means you'll need to hide this extra inch. To fix the problem, simply split the difference and add it to the point where you'll start your working line. This balances the difference between the two sides of the room, meaning one row of boards at each end will gradually taper a ½ inch across the length of the room. In some instances, you may choose to hide the entire difference along a broken wall, one with doorways or closets like the one at the bottom of the drawing. Here, you would need to look from one short wall to the next to clearly see the difference in board width. Of course, where you hide the difference will depend on your specific situation. The point is to plan for it in advance. The next step is to mark your working line. To ensure your rows run straight, measure back from the starting wall 4 board widths plus a 3/4 inch expansion space while correcting for any inconsistencies in the width of the room. In this example, that's 12 3/4 inches on one side and 13 1/4 inch on the other. Bring in the first 2 or 3 fully acclimated flooring bundles. When you do, be sure to set them with the tongues facing away from the starting wall. Otherwise, you'll end up flipping every board, which can waste a lot of time over the course of the job. Next, choose your longest, straightest board and fasten it in place at the wall with the tongue facing out. Use your working line as a reference to ensure the row is straight. In this case, measuring back 9 inches. Of course, the distances you use will depend on your specific product and installation. To fasten the board in place, use your finish nailer and carefully top nail as close as possible to the edge of the board so the floor molding will eventually cover the row of fasteners. Some installers prefer to drill and hand nail this first row of top nailed fasteners. One mistake many installers make when using pneumatic tools is setting the air pressure too high or not really bothering to check it at all. This can result in cracked or split tongues when the pressure is too high, or fasteners not fully set when the pressure is too low. Both situations can result in damaged or loose boards or floors that squeak over time. The correct PSI actually depends on the hardness and density of the flooring and subfloor. To find the correct pressure, start at about 80 PSI and set a few fasteners. Then, take a few moments to check your work and adjust the pressure on your pneumatic finish nailer, blind nailer, or stapler if needed. Once again, be sure to check the NWFA fastener schedule or the manufacturer's instructions for your specific product and job. For top nailing in this example, the NWFA recommends using 1 1/2 to 2 inch fasteners and setting them 1 to 3 inches from the ends and every 10 to 12 inches along the plank. Other flooring products may require different fasteners and fastening patterns. See the NWFA guidelines or the manufacturer's instructions. For added strength, mechanically fasten this first row of boards by blind nailing it through the tongue. Once again, because of the space limitations, you'll need to use your finish nailer or drill and hand nail these fasteners. For blind nailing in this example, the NWFA recommends using the same type fasteners but setting them 1 to 3 inches from each end and 6 to 8 inches along the plank. When using strip flooring, place the fasteners 8 to 10 inches along the plank. Take care to blind nail at the proper angle and depth. Finish top nailing and blind nailing the first few rows using your finish nailer and making sure to vary the board length as you work your way across. With the first few rows in place, the next step is to rack out the job, deciding in advance where to place each board. In general, you must offset the end joints at least 6 inches between adjacent rows as shown here. The idea is to avoid H patterns as shown here and stair-step patterns as shown here. Also, because bundles contain different length boards, don't just open one bundle and start laying out or racking your job. Open 2 or 3 bundles so you can compare board lengths and mix and match. Now, leaving 4 to 6 inches of working space between the last row you installed and the next, rack out your boards end to end in a staggered pattern across the room. Don't worry about making each board fit perfectly at the end of the row, just cut it to fit later. This way, you can make changes if needed without re-racking the whole job. To catch potential problems in advance, we recommend racking out as much of the job as possible and standing back to check things out. Many times, a discolored or knotted board looks fine when you set it in place, but it stands out when you step back to evaluate the job. Racking the job also makes it easier to spot and correct problems like H joints and stair-step patterns. And remember, if you see the problem, chances are the homeowner will too. That's why racking out more than 2 or 3 rows and fixing problems before you fasten them in place just makes sense. Racking everything out is also more efficient, allowing you to fasten several rows at once without fastening, racking, and fastening again, which simply slows you down. When you're satisfied with the rack, it's time to start fastening using the manufactured recommended tools and fasteners. Nailers may be either manual or pneumatic and are available from a variety of manufacturers. Staplers are pneumatic only, but like nailers, they too are available from a variety of manufacturers. Fasten the planks in groups of 4 to 5 rows across as far as you can comfortably reach. Working this way saves the time and effort you'd spend walking back and forth if you fasten 1 row at a time. The rack you've laid out will determine the order in which you fasten the boards. Fasten according to the NWFA fastener schedule or manufacturer's instructions. Your nailer or stapler automatically positions the fastener at the proper angle and countersinks the head when set flat and square to the flooring. Put your weight on the board you're fastening to hold it flat as you insert the fastener. Correct. And remember, fastening schedules for plank flooring, for example, differ from those for strip flooring, so be sure to check the installation guidelines. At the end of the row, measure and cut the planks to fit as needed. To keep the tongue on the right side, flip the board over, take your measurement, and make your mark. Remember to leave about 3/4 of an inch expansion space between the end of the board and the wall. After cutting your board, you may need to push it in place with your pry bar to ensure a tight fit. Continue working across the room until once again your nailer or stapler no longer fits between the planks and the wall. At this point, you'll need to switch to a pneumatic finish nailer or drill and fasten the boards by hand. Once again, take care to use only straight boards. Stack the last few rows against the wall to keep them out of your way as you work. Some installers glue and mechanically fasten these boards in place to fasten them even more tightly. At the last row, use your pry bar or wall jack to seat the boards in place, leaving a 3/4 inch expansion space. Cut boards as needed to ensure a proper fit. Use your finish nailer or drill and top nail to fasten the last row of planks according to the manufacturer's instructions and NWFA guidelines. That about wraps it up for this demonstration of a basic solid wood floor installation. In the next part of this program, we'll demonstrate a glue down installation of an engineered wood floor. Engineered wood flooring is a manufactured product made up of layers bonded together in a cross-grained pattern. Because of the cross strength of these layers, engineered floors are more dimensionally stable than solid wood floors and may be used at all grade levels. Engineered floors can be nailed, stapled, floated, or glued down. Starting methods and installation procedures vary, so consult the NWFA installation guidelines and the manufacturer's instructions. In this part of the program, we'll install a 1/2 inch thick by 3 inch wide engineered wood floor over a concrete subfloor. As before, we have already completed all of the necessary pre-installation procedures listed earlier in the program. For more details, see the NWFA guidelines concerning job site conditions, acclimation, and subfloor requirements. Before installation, make sure the concrete pad is clean and flat. Do what's needed to remove dirt, dust, paint, drywall, and so on. Adhesive will not stick to dirty concrete. Also, using a moisture meter designed specifically for concrete, test the slab according to the NWFA guidelines and the manufacturer's instructions. Some flooring manufacturers specify the moisture meter and moisture testing procedures to use with their products, so be sure to follow their recommendations. In general, if the meter indicates the presence of excessive moisture, conduct a calcium chloride test. Some manufacturers require a calcium chloride test before installation over concrete. Concrete slabs must meet NWFA guidelines and manufacturer specifications for moisture and flatness. When working with pre-finished flooring, remember, nicks or scratches to the finish may require repair. Decide in advance how you will work and where you will stage your materials and tools. Wipe your feet carefully before entering the home, and keep cardboard under tools and adhesives to prevent scratches, drips, or spills. Begin the job by measuring the width of the room from both corners. If one side is longer, divide the difference by 2 and add it to the longer side when establishing your working line. Choose your starting wall, taking into account elements like doorways and so on to hide the excess if needed. The starting wall is often the room's longest unbroken wall. Measure out the required distance from the starting wall and snap your working line. In this example, we'll measure out 3 inches to account for our board width plus a 1/2 inch expansion space as recommended by the manufacturer, or 3.5 inches. Measurement will vary depending upon the board width, the expansion space, and the actual size of the room. If the wall opposite your starting wall has a focal point, such as a picture window or fireplace, measure the distance from your starting line to the focal point and divide the measurement by the width of your boards. For example, if the measurement is 100 inches and your board width is 3 inches, dividing by 3 equals 33 full width rows with 1 inch left over. If this leftover space would create an unsightly appearance at a focal point, adjust your starting line to correct the situation. Next, install a backer board to the working line to hold the boards in place as you push against them. Many installers use the actual flooring, provided there's enough available, and screw or nail it tightly in place. This allows you to slip the tongue of the first row of boards into the groove of the backer board, since most engineered flooring is installed with the tongue facing the starting wall. We also recommend snapping a reference line at the point you'll want to finish spreading your adhesive, about as far as you can comfortably reach. In this example, we'll spread our adhesive back about 1/4 inch shy of 8 board widths, or 23 3/4 inches. When you spread your adhesive, take care not to apply it too far from your reference line in either direction. Ideally, you want the adhesive to end exactly at the last board you will install in this pass. Leaving enough workspace between the backer board and the first row, rack out about 3 feet of flooring. Stagger the end joints on adjacent rows to avoid stair steps and H patterns. Also, check for damaged or discolored boards that may stand out when the job is finished. When you're satisfied with the rack, spread the adhesive approved by the flooring manufacturer along the working line. Be sure to follow the adhesive manufacturer's instructions regarding the spread rate, trowel size, open time, and flash time. Many installers tape their trowels with duct tape before spreading the adhesive to make cleanup easy. Pour out the adhesive, trying to pour out just the amount you'll need. Now, hold the trowel at a 45-degree angle and apply the adhesive as far as you can comfortably reach. This helps you keep from kneeling in the glue and makes it easier on your back. If you pour too much, use your trowel to pick up the excess and put it back in the bucket. Install the first row by carefully aligning the tongue and groove and setting the board in place. For adjoining rows, avoid sliding the board through the adhesive. Instead, place the tongue into the groove as close as possible to the final position and adjust as needed. At the end of the row, measure and cut the planks to fit as needed. To keep the tongue on the right side, flip the board over, take your measurement, and make your mark. Be sure to leave an expansion space equal to the thickness of the flooring. When you complete a section, wipe it down with a manufacturer-approved cleaner since the adhesive may be harder to remove after it dries. If you're not sure what cleaner to use, check the instructions on the side of the can. We also recommend taping the boards together with a low adhesion, safe release tape to hold them tightly in place as the adhesive dries. Check the tape periodically to be sure it does not mar the finish. See the NWFA guidelines or the manufacturer's instructions. Complete the installation using the same procedures. If you need to work on the newly installed floor, use a kneeling board to spread your weight. After the glue is dry, pull up the backer board and finish the installation, setting your first row of boards along the wall. Wipe off the adhesive residue with the appropriate cleaner. It is no longer necessary to use a floor roller unless specifically recommended by the adhesive manufacturer. This concludes the installation part of our program on wood strip, plank, and engineered flooring. In the next part, we'll discuss the guidelines and procedures we recommend for sanding and finishing.